The unmistakable crack of gunfire echoes through the presidential palace as Ibrahim Traore dives behind his ornate wooden desk. At 37, the young leader of Burkina Faso has survived 2 coups and multiple assassination attempts, but tonight feels different. His security detail bursts through the door, surrounding him in a human shield as they usher him through a hidden passage beneath the palace. "Mr. President, we've captured one of them. You need to see this." Ibrahim follows his head of security to a dimly lit interrogation room. A hooded figure sits handcuffed to a metal chair. The captain removes the hood, revealing the weathered face of his former military academy instructor. "Colonel Diallo? You?" The older man spits on the floor. "You've forgotten where you came from, Traore. You've forgotten the people who made you." Ibrahim feels the weight of the accusation settle in his chest. Lately, the pressure of leading a nation through a crisis has been crushing him. The jihadist insurgency controls half the country, the economy is in shambles, and his closest allies are beginning to question his leadership. The words sting because they might be true. "Take him to Kédougou," Ibrahim orders. "I want to question him personally when things settle." Little does he know, the prison at Kédougou holds more than just a treasonous officer. It holds the key to his past and his future. 3 days later, Ibrahim sits in his office reviewing intelligence reports. His younger brother and special advisor, Inusa, enters without knocking. The Russians just landed at the airbase. They're demanding answers about the attack. Ibrahim sighs. "Tell them I'll meet them tomorrow. You can't keep postponing. There are only allies left after you expelled the French." "I didn't expel the French to become a puppet for Moscow," Ibrahim snaps. Inusa steps closer, lowering his voice. "The cabinet is meeting without you. Generals Kumbasar and Ouedraogo are saying you're too inexperienced, that you're losing control." Ibrahim slams his fist on the desk. "I took power to save our people from terrorists and corruption. 2 years later, and what have I accomplished? The insurgency is worse, not better. Which is why you need to show strength now. The council is voting on emergency powers tonight." "Emergency powers for whom? For me, or for them?" Inusa doesn't answer. The silence confirms Ibrahim's fears. His own inner circle is moving against him. "I need to clear my head. Tell the driver to prepare the unmarked vehicle." "Where are you going?" "Kédougou. I need to interrogate Diallo myself." Ibrahim dismisses his brother's objections and changes into civilian clothes. Within an hour, he's in an unmarked SUV heading west from Ouagadougou toward the maximum security prison, accompanied only by his most trusted guard, Lieutenant Aziz. The Kédougou Correctional Facility looms against the setting sun, a colonial relic of concrete and rusted metal. Inside, the prison director, a nervous man with darting eyes, leads Ibrahim through grimy corridors. "Colonel Diallo is in isolation, Mr. President. We've kept his presence confidential as ordered." "Has he spoken?" "Only to request medical attention. He claims heart problems." They reach the interrogation room where Colonel Diallo sits shackled to a table. The once proud officer looks diminished under the harsh fluorescent light. "Leave us," Ibrahim commands. When they're alone, he sits across from his former mentor. "Why, Colonel? You taught me loyalty at the academy." "Loyalty to what? To whom?" "The country is burning while you play president." "I'm trying to save Burkina Faso." "By aligning with the Russians? By extending your transition period another 5 years? That's not what Thomas Sankara would have done." The mention of Burkina Faso's revolutionary hero, assassinated in 1987, cuts deep. Ibrahim had always modeled himself after Sankara, even becoming president at the same age. "You know nothing about what I've sacrificed," Ibrahim hisses. "And you know nothing about sacrifice until you've lost everything," Diallo replies. "Ask yourself why you're really here. Is it for the people, or for power?" The accusation lands like a physical blow. Ibrahim leaves without getting the information he came for, his mind clouded with doubt. As he strides down the corridor, a commotion breaks out in a nearby wing. Guards rush past him toward the sound of shouting. "What's happening?" Ibrahim asks a passing guard. "Plumbing issue in the women's section, sir." "Flooding in the cleaning supply room." Ibrahim follows, telling himself he needs to see every aspect of the country he leads, even its prisons. In the utility room, water pools on the concrete floor as an elderly janitor desperately tries to stem the leak with rags. Something about her movements catches Ibrahim's attention. The way she turns her head, the deliberate precision of her hands, it triggers a distant memory. When she looks up, their eyes meet. Time stops. "Mariam," he whispers, using a name he hasn't spoken in over 30 years. The woman freezes, the mop handle slipping from her fingers and clattering to the floor. "Ibrahim?" Her voice is barely audible. "My son?" The prison director's face drains of color as he realizes what's happening. "Mr. President, I had no idea." "Leave us," Ibrahim commands, his voice steady despite the earthquake happening inside him. When they're alone, Ibrahim approaches the woman cautiously, as if she might disappear. "They told me you died in childbirth," he says. "My father said you died giving birth to me." Mariam wipes her hands on her faded uniform. "And they told me you died of fever as a baby." They stand in silence, decades of stolen time hanging between them. "How long have you been here?" Ibrahim finally asks. "In this prison?" 26 years. 26, for what crime? Political activism. I worked with the women's wing of the resistance after Sankara was killed. Her voice strengthens. Your father remarried a woman connected to the Compare regime. When they discovered I was still alive, they arranged my arrest on fabricated charges. I was sentenced to life. Ibrahim struggles to process this revelation. His entire understanding of his past has been built on lies. Why didn't you try to contact me when I became known? When I joined the military? When I became president? I didn't know you were alive until 6 months ago. She gestures to a small transistor radio clipped to her belt. I heard your voice on the national broadcast. Something in me recognized my son. I've been trying to get a message to you ever since, but who would believe a prison janitor claiming to be the president's mother? She reaches into her pocket and pulls out a small wooden amulet on a freight cord. This was mine. I put it around your neck the day you were born. Ibrahim's hand instinctively moves to his chest, where an identical amulet has hung for as long as he can remember. The one piece of his mother he thought he had. My father told me you made this, he whispers. I made two. One for each of us. To always keep us connected. Lieutenant Aziz appears in the doorway. Mr. President, we need to leave. Now. There's movement at the Capitol. Ibrahim turns to his mother. I'll send for you tonight. You'll be in the palace by morning. Mariam shakes her head. No. Not like that. What do you mean? I'm the president. I can pardon you immediately. And then what? Your enemies will say you're abusing your power to free a convicted criminal. They'll say I'm not your mother, that it's a ploy. I don't care what they say. You should, she says firmly. You have a country to lead. Ibrahim is stunned by her clarity, her strategic thinking after decades in prison. Besides, she continues, lowering her voice, I've made connections here. I know things that could help you. The prison guards talk freely around an old janitor. Prisoners share secrets. I've heard whispers about the coup against you for weeks. Why didn't you warn me? I tried. I've been sending messages through every channel I could find. They never reached you. Her eyes flash with an intelligence that reminds Ibrahim of himself. Someone close to you is intercepting information. Ibrahim's phone buzzes with an urgent message from his brother, return immediately. Emergency session called. Mariam takes his hands. Go. Lead. I've survived here for 26 years. I can wait a little longer for justice to be done properly. As Ibrahim reluctantly prepares to leave, she adds, "The warden's office has records of all visitor logs. Check who's been coming to see prisoner 423 in the last month. That's Colonel Ouedraogo's brother." Ibrahim stares at his mother in amazement, recognizing the strategic mind that he'd always believed came from his father. "How did you survive all these years without breaking?" he asks. Miriam's weathered face softens. "I had something to protect. Even when I thought you were gone, I had your memory. I had the truth. And the truth always finds its way to the light, my son." Back in Ouagadougou, the capital seethes with tension. Armed soldiers patrol the streets as Ibrahim's unmarked vehicle weaves through back alleys to avoid checkpoints. From the passenger seat, he makes secure calls to loyalists in the military. "Captain Meta, secure the communications center. Lieutenant Pakmagda, I need eyes on Generals Kambasser and Ouedraogo. Do not engage, just monitor." Lieutenant Aziz drives with focused intensity. "Mr. President, this is more than just another coup attempt. This is coordinated. The Russians landing, the cabinet meeting in secret, the attack at the palace, they're moving on multiple fronts." Ibrahim processes this while another part of his mind is still reeling from discovering his mother alive. "Take me to the intelligence headquarters, not the palace." "Sir," your brother insisted. "My brother can wait." At the intelligence headquarters, Ibrahim bypasses the chain of command and accesses the surveillance archives himself. What he finds confirms his mother's warning and more. Visitor log showing General Ouedraogo's brother meeting with Colonel Diallo 3 times in the past month. Phone records showing his own brother Inusa in frequent contact with the Russian mercenary commander. Financial transfers from accounts linked to former colonial interests to shell companies owned by cabinet members. "It's not just a coup," Ibrahim murmurs. "It's a complete realignment. They're selling the country out from under me." Lieutenant Aziz peers over his shoulder at the evidence. This goes beyond military control. They're negotiating mining rights, agricultural concessions. They're parceling out the country to the highest bidders. Ibrahim's phone buzzes with another message from his brother. "Where are you?" "Russian delegation waiting." He shuts off his phone and turns to Aziz. "The stakes just changed. This isn't about me holding on to power. This is about Burkina Faso's sovereignty. What do we do?" Ibrahim thinks of his mother, surviving and gathering intelligence for decades within the walls that were meant to contain her. "We need proof that can't be disputed. Evidence that will turn the people and the rank-and-file military against the conspirators. The people already support you, Mr. President. The people support the idea of me, the young revolutionary following in Sankara's footsteps. But I've failed to deliver on my promises. Security is worse, not better. The economy is struggling. I need to show them why, that their suffering isn't my failure but the result of sabotage from within." Ibrahim drafts a plan, drawing on the strategic thinking he now recognizes came from his mother. "I need access to the National Security Archive. And I need to speak with prisoner 423 at Kédougou." "Sir, going back to Kédougou is too dangerous right now." "Then bring him here, secretly. And I need the full file on prisoner 781, my mother." Over the next 12 hours, Ibrahim works tirelessly, gathering evidence and building alliances with loyal officers. He learns that his mother was no ordinary political prisoner but had been a key strategist in Thomas Sankara's government before his assassination, a fact erased from official records. Her insights into governance and revolution had threatened the subsequent regime. The intelligence on the current conspiracy is equally revelatory. The coup plotters have promised Russia exclusive mining rights in exchange for security support, while secretly negotiating with French corporations for agricultural land. The people of Burkina Faso would be caught in the middle, their resources plundered, their security still compromised. Ibrahim realizes that the personal betrayal he's experienced, the lies about his mother, his brother's duplicity mirrors the larger betrayal of his country. The revelation doesn't break him, it focuses him. "This ends now," he tells his small circle of loyal officers. "But not with another coup or counter-coup. We break this cycle today." Dawn breaks over Ouagadougou as Ibrahim finalizes his strategy. He set up a secure command center in an abandoned school building, surrounded by officers he trusts absolutely, young captains and lieutenants who joined the military after him, who haven't been corrupted by decades of political maneuvering. The emergency council session is set for noon, reports Captain Mehta. All cabinet members and senior military leadership will be present. And my brother? He's still trying to locate you, sir. He's told the Russians you've had a medical emergency. Ibrahim nods grimly. Good. Let them think I'm incapacitated. He turns to a detailed map of Ouagadougou marked with the positions of loyal troops. What about our media preparations? Lieutenant Pakmagda steps forward. Ready, sir. We have control of the National Broadcast Center and secure internet channels. We can bypass any attempt to block transmission. And the evidence? Compiled and verified, Mr. President. Financial records, communication logs, the visitor records from Ouagadougou, and testimony from prisoner 423. Ibrahim reviews the dossiers, his expression hardening. The evidence shows not just a coup plot but a systematic undermining of Burkina Faso's security and economy, his brother and the generals deliberately sabotaging military operations against the insurgents while negotiating away the country's resources. What about my mother's file? Captain Mehta hands him a thick folder. Her case was a sham, sir. Fabricated evidence, forced confessions from witnesses who later died in custody. She was Sankara's chief strategist for women's empowerment and economic independence. After his assassination, she organized resistance among women's groups. That's why they needed to eliminate her. Ibrahim absorbs this information, feeling a surge of pride mingled with anger. His mother's resilience makes his own struggles seem manageable by comparison. A young communications officer enters. Mr. President, we've finished the analysis of the intercepted communications. The conspirators are planning to announce your resignation due to health concerns at today's council meeting. General Ouagadougou will declare himself interim president, with your brother as prime minister. And the Russians? They're prepared to recognize the new government immediately. Their forces are on standby to maintain order in the capital. Ibrahim checks his watch. 5 hours until the council meeting. He turns to his team. Here's what we're going to do. Captain Mehta, I want our loyal units in position but invisible. No show of force until my signal. Lieutenant Pakmagda, prepare the broadcast system for my address, but keep it dormant until the council meeting begins. He pauses, considering his next move carefully. I need to return to Ouagadougou. One last time. His officers protest, but Ibrahim is resolute. There's something I need from my mother. Something only she can provide. Back at Ouagadougou prison, Ibrahim meets with Mariam in a more dignified setting, the warden's office, now under the control of officers loyal to him. He's brought her file with him. I know who you are now, he tells her. Your real history. Your work with Sankara. Mariam's eyes fill with tears. He was a true revolutionary. He understood that no nation can rise when half its people are held down. My program for women's economic cooperatives was just beginning to flourish when they killed him. And then they buried you alive in this place. They tried. A smile transforms her weathered face. But I continued my work in here. The women's prison wing has the highest literacy rate in the country. We have skill-sharing programs, conflict resolution committees. The guards don't interfere because we maintain order ourselves. Ibrahim stares at his mother in amazement. You built a revolution inside prison walls. Revolution isn't always loud, my son. Sometimes it's teaching one woman to read, then watching her teach another. Ibrahim shares his plan for confronting the coup plotters. Mariam listens intently, then offers refinements that clarify and strengthen his strategy. Her insights into human psychology and power dynamics are invaluable. There's one more thing I need, Ibrahim says. Your voice. He explains the final piece of his plan, and Mariam nods slowly. Yes, she says. It's time for truth to speak. The presidential palace's Grand Council chamber gleams with polished marble and mahogany as cabinet members and military leaders take their seats. The atmosphere is tense with anticipation. General Ouedraogo confers quietly with Inusa Traore, both men checking their watches repeatedly. "Any word from the medical team?" Ouedraogo asks. "None," Inusa replies. "But it doesn't matter now. His absence works in our favor." The general nods toward the Russian delegation seated in the observer area. "Our friends are getting impatient. They'll have what they want by sundown." At precisely noon, Inusa calls the emergency session to order. Honored ministers, distinguished military leadership, esteemed international observers. We face an unprecedented crisis. Our president has suffered a collapse under the immense pressures of office. Medical experts advise that he is unable to continue his duties. Murmurs spread through the chamber as Inusa continues. In this grave hour, the Constitution provides for transfer of power to ensure stability. General Ouedraogo, as Chief of Defense, is prepared to assume the role of interim president effective immediately. General Ouedraogo rises to speak but is interrupted by the chamber doors swinging open. Ibrahim Traore walks in, dressed in full military uniform adorned with the insignia of his office. The room falls silent. "Forgive my tardiness," Ibrahim says calmly. "I was unaware my health had deteriorated so severely." Inusa recovers quickly. "Brother! Thank God. We received reports." "Fabricated reports," Ibrahim cuts him off. "Much like the reports I'd been receiving about our military operations against the insurgents. Reports of victories that never happened, of secured territories that remain under enemy control." He walks to the center of the chamber, commanding the space. "I've been wondering why, despite doubling military spending, our security situation worsens. Why, despite new alliances, our sovereignty seems more fragile than ever." Ibrahim activates the chamber's display screen, which fills with financial records, communications logs, and surveillance photos. The answer, it seems, is here in this room. Over the next 20 minutes, Ibrahim methodically presents evidence of the conspiracy, the planned coup, the secret negotiations with foreign powers, the deliberate undermining of military operations. He names names, shows bank transfers, plays recorded conversations. The chamber erupts in chaos as accusations and denials fly. General Ouedraogo stands, his face flushed with anger. "These are fabrications. You've manipulated evidence to cling to power." "Have I?" Ibrahim signals to Captain Mehta, who opens a side door. Colonel Diallo enters with a military escort. The former conspirator looks directly at General Ouedraogo. "I've given my full testimony, General. My conscience couldn't bear the weight of betraying our country, even if it meant admitting my own crimes." Inusa attempts to seize control of the situation. "This is theater, not governance. Where is your evidence that these allegations aren't manufactured? You've been increasingly paranoid, Ibrahim." "The stress of leadership has indeed been substantial," Ibrahim completes the sentence. "Especially when those closest to me were working against Burkina Faso's interests." He turns to his brother with genuine sadness. "Why, Inusa? Was power worth our nation's future?" Before Inusa can respond, Ibrahim activates another display. "But perhaps you'll be more convinced by this witness." The screen shows Mariam, seated in a dignified position, her prison uniform replaced by traditional dress. The entire chamber falls silent as she begins to speak. "I am Mariam Sankara Traore. 37 years ago, I was reported dead after giving birth to my son, Ibrahim. Instead, I was imprisoned on false charges when it was discovered I had survived. For 26 years, I've watched my country struggle from behind prison walls. I've watched my son rise to leadership, carrying the weight of our nation without knowing his true heritage." She speaks with the quiet authority of one who has endured unimaginable hardship without breaking. She recounts her work with Thomas Sankara, the programs they built, the vision they had for a self-sufficient Burkina Faso free from neo-colonial influence. She describes the systematic dismantling of those programs after Sankara's assassination, and the parallels she sees in current events. Today, I see the same forces at work, foreign powers using our own leaders as instruments against our people. I call on every person in that room to remember what country you serve. Not Russia. Not France. Burkina Faso. When the recording ends, the chamber remains in stunned silence. Ibrahim turns to face the conspirators. I'm not here to initiate another cycle of coups and counter-coups. I'm here to break that cycle. He addresses the entire council. I've assembled this evidence not just for this room, but for our people. At this moment, this entire proceeding is being broadcast to the nation. Every word, every piece of evidence, every revelation. Ibrahim turns to the observers section. Our international guests should know that Burkina Faso is not for sale. Not to east or west. Our sovereignty is non-negotiable. Finally, he faces Anusa and General Ouedraogo directly. As for the architects of this conspiracy, you will face justice according to our laws. No summary executions. No disappearances. Fair trials, transparent processes. Because that is the Burkina Faso we are building. 3 months later, Ibrahim stands on the steps of the newly renamed Sankara Justice Center. Beside him stands Mariam, now formally exonerated and restored to her rightful place in Burkina Faso's history. Behind them, a crowd of thousands fills the square, ordinary citizens, military personnel, and international observers. Today, Ibrahim addresses the crowd. We take a definitive step away from the cycles that have defined our past. The special tribunal has completed its work. The conspirators have faced justice. But more importantly, the structures that enabled decades of corruption have been dismantled. He gestures to a series of documents displayed on large screens. The Sovereignty Protection Act ensures that no foreign power can gain control of our resources without the explicit consent of the people through their elected representatives. The Military Accountability Framework establishes civilian oversight of security operations. And the Transparency in Governance Initiative makes all government contracts and expenditures publicly accessible. Ibrahim turns to his mother. These reforms were designed with the guidance of someone who never lost sight of what Burkina Faso could be, even when she lost her freedom. Mariam steps forward to thunderous applause. She speaks briefly but powerfully about her vision for women's empowerment and economic self-sufficiency, programs now being implemented nationwide. The Prison Literacy and Skills Initiative she created has become a national model for education and rehabilitation. As the ceremony concludes, Ibrahim and Mariam walk together through the crowd, stopping to greet people personally. No security barrier separates them from the citizens. In a quiet moment, Mariam takes her son's hand. You're setting a dangerous precedent, you know. How so? A leader who keeps his promises. A military man who strengthens civilian institutions. A president who limits his own power. Her eyes twinkle. What will the neighbors think? Ibrahim laughs. They're already thinking plenty. Mali and Niger have requested our assistance in drafting similar reforms. They reach the edge of the square, where a simple electric car waits rather than the presidential limousine. The transition elections are in 8 months, Ibrahim says. Will you stay and help me complete what we've started? Mariam looks up at the son she lost and found again. I've waited 26 years to build the Burkina Faso that Thomas Sankara envisioned. I can wait a few more months to see it realized. As they drive through the streets of Ouagadougou, citizens wave and call out greetings. The mood is different from the tense, militarized atmosphere of months before. There's a sense of possibility, of renewal. You were always meant for this moment, Mariam tells her son. Not just to take power, but to transform it. To show that strength isn't in weapons or wealth, but in truth and service. Ibrahim considers her words as they pass a school where children play freely in the yard. I used to think my purpose was found on the battlefield, fighting the insurgents. I thought victory meant defeating enemies. And now I understand that true victory isn't defeating people. It's defeating the systems that turn people against each other. He glances at his mother. You taught me that. Not with words, but with your life. The car turns onto a newly paved road leading to a series of community centers built where military checkpoints once stood. Each center houses medical facilities, educational resources, and economic development offices. The true revolution, Ibrahim says, echoing his mother's earlier wisdom, isn't always loud. Sometimes it's teaching one person to read, then watching them teach another. Mariam smiles, touching the wooden amulet that once again hangs around her neck, matching the one her son wears. And sometimes, it's remembering who you are when the whole world is trying to make you forget. As the sun sets over Ouagadougou, mother and son continue their journey, not just through the city but toward a future neither could have imagined during their decades of separation, a future where personal redemption and national renewal move forward hand in hand, each strengthening the other.